Well, even though the Warriors are, I don't even know how to describe them. They're not doing good right now. It's a depressing state of affairs going on with that team, but I got a very popular and very insightful. Actually, Alec, I checked out your YouTube channel. I watched a lot of your clips. It's very hard to impress me, but my next guest knows his stuff. I'm really excited to get into it. And more when I say it, I mean the Warriors. I mean Uncle Alchemy himself, aka Alc. Let's break it all down. Alc joins me next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. You can follow my next guest on Twitter at Uncle_Alchemy. But more importantly, find him on YouTube and find him on Patreon at Athletic Alchemy. Again, that is at Athletic Alchemy. He produces tremendous content on YouTube, and your sub numbers, your view numbers reflect that, sir. Alc, great to see you, man. How are you doing? And let's start off with last night's game, I guess. Give me a recap of the Warriors. I know you did a State of the Union, but in a condensed version, give me your recap of the Warriors last night and in general, 18 games in.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Cyrus.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Well, last night, they punted on the game, right?
Yes.
It wasn't going to be, because even if they really wanted it to be competitive, Looney would have played more than 5 minutes. Dante would have been in there a lot, right? But it was kind of like, all right, young fellas, you guys deserve more time. This is what it looks like. And I actually thought it was pretty healthy for Jordan in particular, because you saw him, he was efficient, got to the basket a ton, but he was frustrated at the end of the game. You could see him a little flustered. He picked up the technical, and it's like, this is what it feels like when you've got to own it. Because, it's look, as good as he's been, he doesn't have that pressure. He's got the OGs ahead of him that kind of have to wear these losses.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, all right, young guys, this is what it's like to get embarrassed. If you're a young team and you guys are playing heavy minutes, it's not a forgiving league.
Yeah, this is true. The one thing that bummed me out about last night's game is that this was not the first time the Warriors went into New Orleans. Side note, one of my favorite cities on the planet. But for this, and following the same pattern where it's a road game, in one of the greatest cities in the world, they bench most of their starters. But unlike the last time where they were competitive, I was encouraged by what I saw. This time they just look like crap. What were the differences, in your opinion, between that last New Orleans game, which was like 2 weeks ago, and they were in it till the very end, and this time they lose by 45? Man, what changed to you?
I think probably more it was New Orleans' perspective. The Pelicans, they got caught kind of sleepwalking in that first one. I think it was a letdown of, we're not going to get their Steph and the stars. And they kind of got caught off guard. Ty Jerome, and it was, the Warriors shot better in that first game. It's a shooting league, make or miss, right? But I think that New Orleans made it a point, like, hey, let's just step on them right away, like, because they came out to such a great start to the season, and now you see the parity in the league, and everybody's kind of hovering back down towards 500. And so I think last night, Ingram, McCollum, it was they barely broke a sweat.
They didn't, man. That was easy money. And I want a PrizePicks. Awesome. Thank you, Kaminga. But I want to ask you some questions because that I can't answer myself. And usually I've loved the Warriors for many reasons. You and I were talking before we started recording. We're both Bay Area bred. I think where were you born, actually? I want to get into your background a little later in the show, but where were you actually born? I know you grew up here.
I was actually born in Wichita, Kansas.
Wow. All right. So Raymond Ritter loves you, the head of PR for the Warriors. Because I think he went to school there, I think. So, all right, but you were raised in the Bay Area, and you and I both bounced around. And I'm guessing you were like me, where like the Warriors were, if there was anything that was stable in your life growing up, it was a team that wasn't very good, but at least they're always in the same place and they're on TV, when scheduled. For the most part, especially through the dynasty, this team makes sense. I respect Bob Myers and Kerr because there's usually logic and reason behind what they do. But in your opinion, because I don't know if you know for sure, maybe you do have a direct answer to this. Why did the Warriors decide not to bring back any of their veteran bench players and then decide, oh yeah, I'm not happy with the youngsters. We're not going to play them either. What, in your opinion, happened there? What is the logic behind that? What do you think is going on where they got rid of all their veterans, but then they're not happy with the youngsters? And that's evident because Kerr is begrudgingly playing them. What are your thoughts on all that?
I think that it was Joe. Like when I say Joe Lacob, it was a mandate. Like, all right, he's been waiting because it's his baby. As far as you read between the lines, Wiseman in particular, right? But he's very prideful, and the whole organization is in the development staff and what they've built, right? And it was the 2 timelines and all that. When we all know in actuality last year it really wasn't that.
Yeah. So
I don't think Kerr and the vets were on board the whole time. Now they're agreeable, like they want, you know what I mean? But I had almost a little conspiracy theory when they sent Wiseman back to the G League. I'm like, was Kerr and the vets these first 10 games? They were like, all right, you want to see Wiseman? You want to see him? Here he is. And they knew. I think they knew it was going to be a bumpy start, and they're looking down the bench at all 21-year-olds. So how can they not be a little, I don't know, for a lack of a better term, salty, right? They're a little okay. So because a lack of effort, a lack of interest early in the season, right? Maybe it's some of the championship hangover.
Yeah.
I think that it was Lacob and Myers. I'm obviously assuming here, but I think they're on the side of, all right, 2 timelines. We're going to develop these guys. They're ready. I don't think Kerr and them ever thought that was the case. And the first 10 games just played out that way.
And it's still playing out that way. This is, man, this is crazy. What's going on is crazy right now. Look, I've watched some of your videos, and great stuff, by the way, man. I do understand why you have this massive following. Congratulations on all your success. I was watching one episode where you were breaking down James Wiseman, who, by the way, while the Warriors were struggling in New Orleans last night, James Wiseman was actually having a solid game, playing for the Santa Cruz Warriors. I think, 15 points, 11 boards, I think 2 blocks, if I'm not mistaken. What are your thoughts on Wiseman, man? I've heard you allude to his motor, which I'm guessing metaphorically just kind of means like he doesn't have the drive maybe to go out there, the hunger, that just, wild animal type mentality where you're just being super aggressive. If I'm interpreting what you said correctly, like you don't think he has that. And correct me if I'm wrong, please. But what is your take on Wiseman, man? Like, do you think after this G League stint, he's going to come back a better player? Do you think he's ever going to be anything? What's your whole breakdown on Wiseman, please?
So to give you some context, COVID year when we drafted him.
Yes.
We all had a lot of free time, and everybody, I scouted the top 20, like very thoroughly, the most scouting I've ever done.
Okay.
Completely on board with the Wiseman pick. It was like, look, you got to swing for the fences.
Yeah.
It could be David Robinson, right? And it was like, all right, you take this risk knowing, okay, it's a risk, but let's take this. And then it turned out, it seems that he's missing all the ingredients that you can only gauge in live real games. Because we all know there was no tape. 2 games at Memphis. High school doesn't count for a 7-footer, right?
Right.
And so the motor, the hands, the feel, the timing, all the things that you only find out in 5-on-5 were the holes where if you get him in an empty gym, yeah, he looks like young David Robinson, And so when I say motor, what I mean is an energy level, a baseline of energy, right? Where DiVincenzo's motor is just high, right?
Yeah.
It's high. It's a natural baseline of a high motor. Now, the bigger you are, the general rule is the less of a motor you need. Usually, big guys, you can operate slower. So I'm not saying he has to play like a guard, but his energy level, particularly on the glass and the timing, the want to just compete for the basketball. What's the phrase? A nose for the ball.
Yeah.
He doesn't compete for the ball like you would want him to.
That's not good. That's not good. Do you have a theory on the hands thing? Because he doesn't have small hands. Right. I think it's just the game is just too fast for him still. What's your thoughts on just the fact that he turns the ball over a lot? He fumbles the ball a lot. Is that just an experience thing? Does that apply to the energy level? What's your thoughts on that?
So reflexes, is it reflexes? Is he not recognizing what's happening? Because it's funny, I used to coach flag football years ago back in Arizona, and you throw the ball, and I'm on a field, you throw the ball. I had some receivers who, if you put air under the ball and there's time to think about it, they're gonna bobble it. They're not gonna catch it. But if you rocket it and just make them react and catch it, they'll catch it, right? If that makes sense. And so
he does.
It seems like Wiseman, if you don't give him time to really think and see it in, and you just hit him with it, he has pretty good. We've seen him flash good hands. But when it's like, here comes the lob, then it's like he can't. So I don't know if it's part processing, and I've been just as confused as you, because there are times where he snatches a ball and you're like, okay, well, yes, that he doesn't. It's not a Donald Foyle out here, but no disrespect to my guy, but it's so, but it's both, right? It's yeah. And then the argument is, now, can you teach hands? Can you get better? Well, Jerry Rice says so.
Oh, Jerry
Rice says so, right? The catching bricks. So how about those goggles that Steph made infamous with, the where you're working your neurons, you're firing and getting you're overloading your nervous system to react. They have all light years ahead. I'd love to see him in some nervous system training.
Yeah. It's a lot of Wiseman is baffling, and I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. We'll have more with Alk in just a moment. First, I got to give some love to a relatively new sponsor of this program. Today's show is brought to you by Turo, who is the world's largest car-sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. You can browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, UK, Canada, and coming soon to Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for family road trip. You can get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from point A to point B. Test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on for a while to see if it fits your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen today. After us, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Alk on Twitter at Uncle_Alchemy, ALCHEMYS. And obviously, you can follow, subscribe to his YouTube channel, Athletic Alchemy, Patreon as well. Same handle, Athletic Alchemy. What about the rest of the youngsters, man? In your opinion, Alk, Moses Moody is the one that, I feel like if there's one young player that Dub Nation is universally getting behind in terms of just, supporting him, wanting playing time, it's Moses Moody. And Kerr alluded to personal fouls. He alluded to turnovers as a reason for having a quick leash with him or not playing him, even though the stats do not substantiate that. At times this season, we've seen Stephen Curry be a little irritated at Moody, whether it's for being in poor positioning, setting bad screens. What is your take on Moody? I think he should be playing a lot more. Last night he had 33 minutes, but he also wasn't brought in right away. Your take, man. I mean, what do you think about Moody, and why do you think he's not playing as much as at least I think he should? Your thoughts?
Yeah, Moody you saw that the veterans took a liking to him, right? He's out to dinner with Steph, Draymond. You hear just the way they speak of him, right? He's rise above his age, and everybody kind of penciled him into this rotation. I think what we're seeing with Moses is one of two things. He played, what's that high school? It's a factory out in Florida. Forgive me,
sorry.
name, but so Cade Cunningham was there. Scotty Barnes was there. Ben Simmons. It's a factory of basketball players. And he was part of that team there. And then he was the rookie of the year, I believe, in his conference for college. But the point I'm making is I don't think he's ever been a role player. Now, I don't think he's ever been the get out of my way guy, like give me the ball, I'm the lead ball handler. But to ask these guys, these young guys, to be efficient in 10 minutes is a tough ask. There's no doubt about it. But I also think that he hasn't yet adjusted to the athleticism of the league. We know that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, we know it's relative, right? Like if Moody's out at LA Fitness with me, he's probably dunking on my head, right? But the NBA, you watch the way he crowds ball handlers and the way he attacks the rim. He's not athletic for NBA standards, and he hasn't made that adjustment. And he needs to distance manage better, and he needs to be a little less cavalieric downhill. Like he has bad spills, and so I think those two adjustments are the two things that I see with Moody right now that he hasn't yet to make.
You brought up something there that's very interesting, and I haven't really put much thought into it, but it's very astute, which is that these three youngsters that the Warriors are not accustomed to being bench players, right? Wiseman has virtually no history, but when he played at Memphis and he played in high school, he was still the go-to guy. I mean, he was a stud. Moses Moody, like you just mentioned, played at this elite prep school in Florida. At Arkansas's 1 year under Musselman, he's their go-to guy. Jonathan Kuminga, heralded up and comer. His 1 year at G League Unite, he was the go-to player for them. Plays for Nigeria, the go-to player for the national team. I hope I got the country right. And now they're adjusting to being role players, being bench players. And maybe that's the problem. I don't know. Like, if that's the case, like what's the salve there? Like if you're Steve Kerr, like do you play these guys more? Do you continue doing what you're doing, which is not working? If you put yourself in Kerr's shoes, what do you do with these youngsters? What do you do with the rotations?
It's a tough. They put him in a tough spot, man. I don't think you want internal competition, and we know who Steve Kerr is. Like he's going to lean on the veterans, and so JaMychal Green, you assume, was told when he signed here, hey, we've got 20 minutes for you here. Yep. And so he's going to get that nod as bad as he's looked at least these first 20 games, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny because I'm watching Kuminga last night, and I know that we've all, I say we've all, but I think the consensus with Moses has been, well, he's going to be a great role player, a Danny Green type of guy. Kuminga, you watch him, the more he has the ball, the more minutes he's on the floor, the better he gets.
Yes.
Right? I'm not sure Kuminga's cut out to be a role guy. I think he will adjust. But here, and we know that Kuminga's style doesn't necessarily fit the system now, but here's the question I'll ask you.
Yeah.
25 minutes, 10 to 12 shots, and it's not great. It's inefficient. What's actually the difference between he and Poole in that role? 25 minutes, 10 shots off the bench. And you say, oh, they didn't play that well. What's the difference in impact?
Well, I mean, Jordan Poole, the impact, Jordan Poole's scoring is much earlier. Kuminga had a slow start, but they're obviously, like, Kuminga is much more of an effective attacker to the rim, I think, given his size and height. Jordan Poole is obviously a much superior three-point shooter. Kuminga has not nailed that part of his game down yet, being consistent, right? Is that fair? I don't know. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. Poole provides spacing and on paper playmaking, right? For sure. Like another ball handler. But the point that I'm trying to make is Poole's really struggling, and we get that there's politics, right? And there's investment, right? But my point is, if Poole has a bad night in 25 minutes, what's the difference between Kuminga's bad night in 25 minutes?
Yes, I see what you
more Kuminga, because if you give him the 25 minutes and 8 or 9 shots, he'll get you 15 points, 5 rebounds. He'll make a crazy athletic play. There's the size and athleticism on the floor. And it kind of dawned on me in last night's whatever that was. It was like, dude, if it seems like if you give him more, he's going to play better. I think he's really struggling in the little spurts.
You are preaching to the choir about that, Alec. I've been saying that. I was saying that last year. Even Kerr had, just for some reason, is such a short leash with Kuminga. And I've been advocating since day one with him, is that sometimes players take a little time to warm up. sometimes they don't get the rhythm right off the bat. You know, they got to get in sync with minutes. That's a great call. You're right, because I see what you're saying now in terms of the Poole Kuminga comparison. Like they are, you're right, they're similar. It's just that Poole has a much longer leash, and it could be the politics of it with that big contract. We'll touch on that in just a little more. The politics side of it, man, Alec, that part drives me crazy because that's a very real thing, but you can't put your finger on it. Like you can't nail it objectively, but it's true. And I've certainly heard enough of it behind the scenes to know that is if there is a negative to Steve Kerr and in this organization, is that they have egos and they sometimes do play this politics game a little too much. It's crazy, man. But I'm with you. Yeah, Kuminga just needs minutes. That's what I think. In just a minute, I want to get into your background. I would love to learn about you. And let's talk Warriors a little more. First, what is today? Today Tuesday. Okay, we're going to talk about some LinkedIn real quick. This will just be a minute here. Alc, there's my overlay. Look, if you are running a business, it's not easy to find good talent these days, right? And every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. And if you're looking for work, by the way, you've got to be on LinkedIn. That is the platform for any job seeker. But the economy's good. There's a lot of small business owners out there who are looking for talent as well. And you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to, again, faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Alec on Twitter at Uncle Alchemies. Again, it's Uncle_Alchemies, ALCHEMYS. And obviously follow his massively huge and successful YouTube channel. It's at Athletic Alchemy. Also on Patreon at Athletic Alchemy. So are we on the same page? Just want to make it clear. I love Kuminga. I think he just needs time, and he could develop into a tremendous player. I really do, but you got to give him the reps. Are we on the same page there, Alec, or do you feel differently? Your thoughts?
No, absolutely. The rumors of the attitude issues that started a year ago, right? And you see little, like last night, like when he doesn't get a call or he goes down, right? He throws kind of a little tantrum.
He does.
And so, right? So you get what they're trying to coach out of him, right? But it's just been too extreme and you're holding him back. And it's out of the young guys. Like, I know we're all playing with the trade machine right now, unfortunately, probably, but like, he's the one you're keeping out of it, right? He's out of the Moody, out of the Wiseman, even Jordan, but he's the one with the potential, and it's time to unleash him, especially when it'd be one thing if, what did we start last year? 18-2 or something like that?
Correct. That's exactly right.
It'd be one thing if we were headed that way, and it's like, well, you don't fix what's not broken, but like, Jermichael's out there with his saggy shorts. Like, you got to give Kuminga a chance, man. It doesn't make sense right now. You know what I mean? And so we're all foaming at the mouth for that. That's one thing we can all agree upon as a fan base right now.
Yeah, last night's show, I was with Kylan Mills was with me, and we did play with the trade machine. I am guilty of throwing Kuminga in some of those trades. But Kevin Durant was the end result. But ultimately, I don't want to lose Kuminga. I don't. I have a lot of faith in him. Part of the reason why I included him is because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the Warriors. I don't see them always showing faith in Kuminga, and it makes me wonder if they will give up on him. I don't want them to. I love Kuminga personally. If you're Bob Myers, man, because you're right, a lot of people are bringing up the trade machine. They're wondering, like, what the hell are the Warriors going to do to salvage this thing? Because, and let me know if you agree with this or not, the starting five is fine. Like, the starting five is the best in the NBA. Like, the measurables confirm that. Clay's finally rounded to form. And I think he's just going to get better and better as the season goes along. Draymond Green, I think I'm seeing little signs of slippage, but I think he's good enough as well to to help them win another championship. But that bench is a problem, man. If you're Bob Myers, do you do anything? What would you do, Alk, if you had control of this team and you're faced with this situation here? Like, do you stick with it? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, no, it's you got to make a move. You got to make a move. And someone had commented to me yesterday. They're like, "Alk, man, you want to trade half the team?" Because I'm always just hinting and having fun. And I go, no, I don't want to trade half the team. I think half the team should be made available.
Oh,
right. Like, like if we're looking at like, we know the untouchables, right? But there has to be a move made. And you brought up the slippage from Draymond. It's more than just a little. Doing what I do with my breakdowns. So I break down each game the next day and I put out a video on my Patreon for it. So I'm watching the game like 2.5, 3 times. And it's pretty alarming.
Thank you for saying that. People are not agreeing with me with that. And they could start to interrupt, man. Go ahead. Yeah, but I agree. I 100% agree.
He's having a hard time elevating around the basket. It's not like he was a huge leaper, right? But you're watching these contests where he's really just kind of getting put on his butt. And then his closeouts are just an abomination right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is he, we've seen him start slow, championship hangover. Does he need to round himself into shape? I would tend to lean that way. But then you add the context of what's just happened here. The pool incident, contract season, more or less, right? And so it doesn't really add up. And at this point, they're asking him to do too much. And so what needs to be addressed in my eyes is rebounding and rim protection.
Yes.
We need size. They're asking Draymond to do too much. Backpedal, protect the rim, step up to these De'Aaron Foxes coming at him at full speed. It doesn't look pretty, man. So he needs size behind him and rebounding because we're always overcompensating, trying to make up for the lack of size, and we're scattered. Then the offensive class, the fouls. I think that would solve a lot. And so I don't know how you go about doing that because there's a lot of teams that would like, a nice big man. But my point would be is that I think outside of the core, you got to see what you can do.
I'm very happy we're on the same page, man. It's your stuff, dude. I feel like we can talk Warriors for hours together. I want people to know about you, Alk. Like, what's your background? We were talking off the air. You and I both grew up in the Bay Area, had parents who moved us around a lot. Traumatized me, man. I have stability issues as a result of it. But tell the listeners about you. I don't know if you get a chance to talk about yourself much on your show. Where are you from? Like you mentioned you're born in Wichita, but give everyone your Bay Area background. Where are you now? And is this the only work you do, or are there other passions and professions that you're involved with?
Okay, so Wichita, Kansas. I was adopted, so I immediately came to the Bay Area in California. My mom, a hippie school teacher, and my dad, an immigrant from Ethiopia.
Wow.
Who was a plumber. And so grew up in the Bay Area, had a diverse, friends in school, but I bounced around a lot. About 10 years old, I started moving around. The parents separate. You know how that goes.
Yes.
And I was always the new kid. I went to like 5 high schools and didn't even finish.
Which high schools?
So the San Rafael, Terra Linda, Drake, Richmond. I ended up at like a continuation school, but
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Anyway, I tried to hoop everywhere I went, but that's the one thing that you know how it is being the new kid.
Yes, it's awful, man. I hated it, dude. But that's me. I don't know.
And well, for me, basketball was the door, was the entryway. It was like, oh, who's this new kid? Well, you can hoop.
Yep.
So you get in, you can hoop, and that carried me through that process. 18, 19 years old, as my now wife was pregnant with our first daughter, I moved to Arizona. And so now, to give you the time span of that, I turned 39 on Sunday. So that's 20 years ago.
Happy birthday, man. Happy belated.
Thank you. Moved out here. And once again, basketball was kind of the crutch. It was like, all right, well, I got to work. This was young dad, just living in a little apartment, working Sears, Subway, malls, doing all that stuff. But basketball was just like, all right, I don't know anybody. Well, let me just go hoop. I started training and doing that. As my kids got older, they were like, we really need someone coaching the basketball team, this charter school out here. And I was like, well, I'll try. I'll give it a shot, And 2 years in, we go win the championship. And thanks to it, I had a girl that's a beast. She went D1. And so that really helped, right?
Congrats.
But so then after that, they're like, you know what? Like, we just love how you're handling with the kids. Can you run the sports program here more or less and be a PE teacher?
Oh,
now,
wow.
I don't have any credentials, but I don't know if you're familiar with the charter schools here in Arizona. They basically can break all the rules.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
they can just kind of do what they want. So I got a parapro. So I was basically a teacher assistant, and I did all the certifications to where I could be on campus and do it. And I was a PE teacher and coached their sports for basically 5 years between volunteering and getting paid for it. And so I got all these reps with kids from like 5-year-olds to 16-year-olds of like how to dribble a ball and to the more advanced stuff, and coaching soccer, flag football, basketball. And so that was just a lot of reps and a lot of experience doing that. Got burnt out and went, because you end up dropping these kids off in the van at 9, 10 at night. Their parents aren't showing up.
It's work.
Yeah. So I start working for a group home for high-risk youth out here who are coming out of just fresh out of more or less juvenile hall. But the one thing was ton of great athletes. So many of these kids, really gifted athletes, but just troubled, angry, broken homes. And so, because that's what I leaned more into as a coach. Not a great X's and O's guy, but I was a really good motivator, and then just teaching the fundamentals, more player development. And so I got to do that more on an individual level with those kids for about 3 years. And then I started my YouTube channel, and I was doing that at the same time the first couple years. And then up to this point now where, yeah, I mean, this is what I do for a living. Blessed.
Love it. Love it, dude. Your genuineness comes through, man. I feel like it's hard, especially with what you do, where you talk a lot. It's hard to fake it when you're constantly communicating verbally as much as you do. And yeah, man, your content is fantastic. Look, I'm still a teacher. So I respect for what you did. I understand how much work it goes into it. I coach youth basketball, so I understand that part of it as well, especially if they're really young. Like, it's so much of it is just motivating and trying to get the best out of them. So that's awesome, dude. Congrats on your success. I know you don't do guests a lot on your show. I don't know if you do them at all, actually, but if you ever need one, man, let me know. I will happily join you. And I'd love to have you back on this show at some point, because you've definitely proven to me you know your stuff. So sure. I mean, who am I to judge? But yeah, I'm impressed, sir. Anything else? Have you covered all bases? Is there anything else you like to promote? I don't want to take up too much of your time, man. You've had you for 30 minutes now, but again, Patreon, right?
Yeah.
People can.
Athletic Alchemy. See, and that's the thing. Because if I would have to redo this whole sports media thing, it wouldn't be Athletic Alchemy. That's a mouthful, and it's not easy to look up, right? But that was my basically my basketball training brand before my YouTube channel. As a coach and as a trainer, it was Athletic Alchemy, and then it just transferred into this. But Athletic Alchemy, YouTube, Patreon, Twitter, hit me up. I'm pretty accessible, and yeah.
Dude, you got 61,000 subs. I mean, your primary video has 605,000 views. You were talking about Kobe Bryant, who I really feel like the world changed when he passed. Like, the world still has not recovered. It's crazy what an impact that man had. I know it's just a coincidence in terms of, the pandemic and all that, but it's, it's just crazy. I feel like the world has not been the same since. Thank you, man. Let's finish on this note. Do you think the Warriors are going to turn this thing around? We'll end on this though. What do you foresee for the Golden State Warriors this year? Are they going to correct the ship? Is this the beginning of the end for the dynasty? Maybe something else? I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're going to get into the playoffs. I think they're going to correct it regular season wise. But I think that Memphis looming, the Suns revenge tour. Look, if you follow my stuff, I'm more of a pessimist, right? And to me, the one thing I didn't get in that I wanted to ask you was, I know now we're going long.
Ask, it's okay. No, I'm on your schedule, so ask. It's okay.
What's good with Andre? Are we wasting a roster spot with Andre? I mean, no one wants to say it, but we're missing size, and we're leaving one spot open. And training camp started in the end of September. How? He's Nigerian. He doesn't have to get in shape. come on, man. Anyway, I had to get that rant in on here, but
well, you know what's crazy about Andre is that when you look at a couple weeks ago, I decided to look back a year and see what the rotations were with the Warriors, because you mentioned that 18-2 start, and I decided, I'm like, what were they doing then to get this 18-2 start? Because they didn't have Klay Thompson, and Andre Iguodala was a huge part of that. He was getting 20 minutes a night on top of like Gary Payton II, Otto Porter Jr., Bielitsa. They were all getting big minutes. So when you look at the Warriors this year, it's a 90-day situation. The Iguodala thing, I thought the value in him coming back from one more year was going to be being a check on Dre, right? If there's any player on this roster that can kind of calm Draymond down when his emotions go out of control, it's Iguodala. He usually kind of brings back, but Dre's not Dre. I mean, he's really faded in terms of relevancy, and so that part of his value, I feel like, is diminished. And then, he's not playing. I don't know what the hell is going on in that regard. I mean, but then again, we also saw his body break down old man style last year. So I thought his value was going to be like Udonis Haslem, but that's not really, translating so far, because the Warriors are 8-10. They still have another roster spot. So it's not like he's taken up someone else's spot. It's just, I don't know what the hell their plan is there. I mean, on one hand, it's like, am I supposed to sympathize with a billionaire who's trying to save a few bucks? They made $800+ million in revenue last year. I mean, they're flush with cash. Money is not a problem for this group, but we're supposed to like worry about that at the same time. So I've never been on that train. Yeah, to me, you got to fill that 15th spot with a veteran. I don't know if Dwight Howard sounds good to you. Hey, I wouldn't mind it.
Like Will won, but and you know what you always hear too with players that are at the end of their careers, and kind of the mentor role is, you have to be on the floor. You have to be in uniform to really be able to get in the ears of the young guys. I'm not saying all the way, but they stress that point, and he hasn't been able to get on the floor. The other thing that I will say is, I've heard a lot of people say, well, we're missing Mike Brown as the defensive coordinator.
Your thoughts? Yeah. Love hearing your thoughts.
Maybe, but I'm kind of the belief that you what's the phrase? You got to have the horses. It's even in football. You watch like the Niners defense. I'm DeMarco Ryan, cool, right? But it's like Bosa. Come on, like it's the horses. But the point is, GP2 Otto, right? And then you stick Wiseman in the middle of the paint. Like it's so like, I don't want to discredit Mike, because I think that his rah-rah personality really kept them engaged. But I don't think that it's that. And when you ask to bring it back around to what's this season going to turn into, the question is Joe Lacob willing to learn this NBA lesson of when to hold him and when to fold him, and trade James Wiseman? So
is that the player you're looking at for trade, is Wiseman? You think it's time to move on?
I don't know if he has any value, but I at this point right now, I hate to be the negative. I gotta say how I feel, right? And they need
rebounding, man. Yes, yeah. I don't want you to fake it. I don't want
to be so negative, because I know build in, but they need rebounding and rim protection. Whether it's Moses and Wiseman, a combination, you hear the two timelines. They've got to do this for Steph, because Steph is like Benjamin Button. You know what I mean? So like, that's the question. If Joe Lacob is going to hold on to James Wiseman and these young three guys, then we could be looking at a play-in. If they
who knows from there? I do see some parallels with the 95-96 Rockets, right? Or 94-95, whatever that was, like the second run where they finished with the 6th seed and people have ridden them off. But then once you're in the playoffs, it's anybody's game, right?
Right.
So yeah, I could talk with you all day, man. Come back on the show sometime, will you? If you don't mind.
No doubt. Yeah, man. We'll make it happen.
I love that, dude. I love that, Alc. All right, man. And one more time, give the man love on YouTube. Follow his channel at Athletic Alchemy. And if you subscribe to his Patreon, that's where you're getting all those post-game analyses, which undoubtedly are very accurate. And like I said, I'm going to fork up the money, man. I'm going to get some Patreons from you so I can be better on the show. Thank you, dude. Thank you. And one more time, follow Alec on Twitter at Uncle_Alchemies. That's Uncle_ALCHEMYS. The Warriors play the Clippers tomorrow. I don't know who's coming on yet, but we'll figure it out. Happy early Thanksgiving, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, Alec, man. Happy early birthday as well, or belated birthday. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Enjoy your last year of your 30s, brother.
I know, right? I know.
I got a few years on it. It flies, dude. It's crazy, man. But you got the 3 kids. It sounds like things are going great for you, brother. So thanks for coming on, man. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.